So there have been a lot of different changes this offseason for the Dallas Cowboys. And one of the most interesting things to watch, it's going to be seeing how Brian Shottenheimer calls this Cowboys offense and how he differs from Mike McCarthy in the way that Mike McCarthy, utilized this Dak Prescott Cowboys offense. And in the past couple of days, George Pickens shared an interesting quote that gave some insight into the kinds of things that could be a little different heading into 2025 for Brian Shottenheimer. So here's a quote from via PatrickWalkerCowboys.com. Pickens said, "A lot of motions," Pickens said of the playbook, "a lot of things that you get an indicator on what the defense is doing before you say hike. Some coaches don't do that." So Pickens mentioning the use of motions, which was something that last season Mike McCarthy didn't seem to be the kind of coach that necessarily wanted to call a ton of motion. That was consistently, I think, a frustration from a lot of Cowboys fans that they didn't utilize more motions, when in today's NFL, for the most part, a lot of the best offenses, a lot of the best play callers utilize motion a lot just because it seems to be a little bit of a cheat code, especially when you can get some of your best receivers, in motion when the ball's snapped, because when you're already, jogging or full speed when the ball's snapped, as opposed to having to, start your route at that point. Clearly, if you're already in motion, you're going to be going that much faster, that much quicker. So, guys like Tyreek Hill, who the Dolphins love to do that little motion where he's already gotten going when they hike the ball. I mean, just puts you in position to, capitalize on, defensive weaknesses and gets you going a lot faster. And it looks like that is something that Schottenheimer, he at least is claiming that that's something he's big into. We'll see once the season starts if he does it at a much higher rate than Mike McCarthy. It sounds like he is, and now with this George Pickens quote, it sort of seems to confirm some of those things. And I want to look back to a quote from Schottenheimer early in the offseason. This is also via Patrick Walker, these quotes, but here's from Schottenheimer. "I'm a big believer in shifts and motions to distort things." He also says, "We're going to do a great job of marrying our runs and our passes and make those look the same," said Schottenheimer. "I'm proud to say at 2 different times in my career as a coordinator, we led the league in rushing, and they go hand in hand. The running game and the action pass game go hand in hand." And this kind of talk sounds very similar to coaches like Matt LaFleur with the Packers, where I've heard him, discuss the importance of, making your runs look like your passes. And so then it's just that much harder for defenses to really figure out exactly what you're going to do. And so I do wonder if we'll see, some more of that Shanahan style type offense here with Schottenheimer. It sort of sounds like there's going to be aspects of it that do look, similar. And I found this interesting chart from Fantasy Points data showing the different, the motion rates last season, comparing play action and motion shift rates on dropbacks. And he says here, or they say here, with Mike McCarthy calling the offense, the Cowboys are ranked below average in both dropback motion shift rate and play action rate. And if you look at this chart, you can see the Cowboys in the bottom left box there, almost to the top left one. But the bottom left box is infrequent play action, infrequent motion slash shift. They're on the Bears and the Buccaneers there. And honestly, looking at this chart, the bottom left, most of those offenses are pretty uninspiring. I don't think it's a coincidence that some of the teams here with the highest motion rates are some of the best offenses in the NFL. You got the 49ers, Bills up there, Dolphins, Rams, Lions, Packers. And then, you see the Eagles and Ravens a little closer to average when it comes to motion, but they had a little bit higher play action rates. So it's not like you can't find success if you're not operating, motion at a high level. The Bengals were a little bit higher than the Cowboys in that regard, and they were a top 10 offense last season. So it's not like you can't find success by not using a ton of motion, but as I said, I don't think it's a coincidence that the teams that seem to utilize motion at a very high rate seem to have some of the most, some of the toughest offenses to stop. And so it sounds like that's going to be something the Cowboys utilize in 2025, which I assume will lead to this offense being much more successful. But I think regardless, this Cowboys offense will be better. I think it's hard when you add a talent like George Pickens and you have him next to CeeDee Lamb for your offense not to find some success. And I think if Dak Prescott can stay healthy all year, this Cowboys team is definitely going to bounce back. So that's all I have for today. If you want more Dallas Cowboys content, feel free to subscribe down below. and I'll see you guys next time.